Hello and welcome to the Legends of Tabletop podcast. We are something we haven't done in quite a while. We're having a couple of ENnie Award winning authors on the show tonight. We've got Oscar Rios and Jeff Moeller with us tonight. How you guys doing?
We're hanging in there.
Well enough.
We're all here.
I'm moving enough.
Any day above ground is a damn good day.
Yeah, well, we're going to be pushing the limits of that, I think, here soon, but that's a different discussion, I suppose.
Yes.
So Jeff, how you been? What's going on? How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm not dead yet. My daughter got married last weekend, so that's cool.
Nice.
Other than that, I'm just working my butt off, and I have a few new things out or coming out. And Oscar's been bugging me again. So
you came to me with the last project, not the other way around.
Yeah, okay, well, that's
for once you were the one initiating this. So
that's all my
I have pestered Jeff.
This one.
I have pestered Jeff many times in the past, but this one was his baby, so not mine.
Yeah. So you've got a new book out, a new scenario out. It's I didn't write down the title. Seasons Change.
Seasons Change.
Yep.
Nice.
It is out. It's been out for since Monday-ish, and I've already gotten a few very nice. Hey, this is really cool. I'm playing it for Halloween. I'll let you know how it goes, kind of thing.
Nice selling. We've got. I think we're up to almost a dozen copies sold.
Nice. So it is. It's a Halloween thing, and it's a Halloween scenario set at Halloween, all about Halloween. So that was kind of a big part of the idea. So was to try to get it out before Halloween, so people might actually want to play it.
Yes.
On Halloween.
The staff really pulled together and got this turned around pretty quickly for one of these things. So
nice. And the setting for this one, what are we like? Broad strokes. What are we looking at for the scenario?
2025.
Okay.
A nameless substitutable mid-sized urban city, ostensibly in the U.S., but could be anywhere. But it is it's very modern in the sense that all the logic trail and the clue tree are all 2025 technology, and you have to hack into a cell phone, things of that nature.
But
it's all very modern and pretty carefully thought out in that way.
For me, the real selling point is you're playing preteen, early teens, and they're all I don't want to say incarcerated. What's the word for it?
Institutionalized.
They're institutionalized.
Indisposed.
They are in a psychiatric facility. So preteens and teens, psychiatric center on Halloween, Call of Cthulhu Modern. What could possibly go wrong?
The thing that go wrong is they all get invited to they all get thrown a Halloween party that's about 10 years too young for them, and it gets worse.
Yeah, that's the best part. the lame ass Halloween party is the high point, and the evening just gets so much worse after that. But I like to say when I'm talking about this scenario that as I'm reading it, it's got like 3 endings where it's like one of those movies that you keep thinking it's over, and then there's another 20 minutes where a whole bunch more stuff happens, and then there's another 20 minutes where a whole bunch more stuff happens.
Right.
So when we get to the first switchback, where we're gonna switch gears, and I'm reading through it, and I'm like, is Jeff actually gonna try and pull this together? Because that's some ballsy stuff. And as I'm reading through it, I'm like, son of a bitch, he's actually sorted it all out and it actually works. I'm like, hats off. Very creative. As a fellow writer, I was very impressed, because as I saw the direction he was going, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a tough one. to his credit, it all works. It's solid. I don't
So
want to give away too much, but
yeah. So is it more of a non-traditional structure as far as the design?
Yeah, it's actually super traditional in the sense that it's a 3-act story. There is but no, it's a non-traditional. I can sum it up. There's 3 parts to it. Part 1 is survival horror. The player characters are stuck in a locked psychiatric ward on Halloween. Things go south very badly and very quickly, and they basically have to survive and escape. That's Act 1. Act 2 is what happens on the assumption that they do escape. And Act 2 is nuts. Act 2 is completely bonkers, and it's very role-playing oriented, and it's a very non-traditional kind of scenario. They get sent on a hero's quest, but there are some. It's a very odd one. Let's just put it that way.
They have certain limitations that they need to deal with.
Limitations. Let's put it that way. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I really kind of don't want to spoil it.
Right, we're not spoiling it
because it's a big twist, and I want people who buy it and are going to sit through and run it to have that kind of like, oh crap, what just happened moment.
Right.
And then the third one is assuming that they all assuming that the quest is completed. There's a role-playing challenge at the end in Act 3, and I don't mind explaining that. Basically they have escaped from a locked psychiatric ward. And they got out, and some crazy things happened, and now they've been caught by the police, and they have to explain what happened to themselves. And it's a mandatory role-playing session. The detective sits down and says, "Okay," and takes their statement. Okay, what happened? What happened to the nurse? Where have you been for the past 12 hours? What happened at this? What happened to this house? How do you explain? How do you explain how this, frankly, how do you explain how this kidnapped girl got from point A to point B with no one seeing her? Yeah. So, there's some...
they're already going back to a psychiatric ward. So are they going to stay in their current psychiatric ward, or are they going to be transferred to some place for criminally insane people?
Yeah.
So...
Well, and that's always the sticky wicket at the end of the scenario, right? Assuming everybody survives, if the cops are called, or if someone in authority shows up, how do you approach that? What do you actually?
One of the things that I was doing as I was finishing up is that as I got there, it's like, this cannot be there's a couple set pieces in the scenario where I could see a GM just sort of trying to hand wave it and just kind of move past it. And there are a couple different places where I kind of call out in the text, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Make them role play through this. They're really kind of 3, and it's gonna sound a little weird. One is the police interrogation. Another one is getting into a teenage girl's cell phone, and a third one is calling an Uber. And these things sound kind of mundane, but if you know what's going on, they're all 3 of them are very challenging things to accomplish. Well, getting a teenage girl's cell phone away from her is challenging under the best of circumstances. But
it's basically, I find it almost like an escape room.
Yeah,
that there are challenges and there are ways. It's not an escape room with one answer. There are multiple ways that you can accomplish these things, but it's going to take some thinking. It's going to take some finagling. None of these are easy. It's not impossible. It's not one of these scenarios where anybody's where like the keeper's just trying to kill people. But it's definitely a challenge. It's definitely has the feel that the players are going to be mentally challenged. And there's some great horror moments, a lot of creepiness. There's some visceral horror scenes because part 1 is more survival horror, part 2 is more gothic horror, and part 3 is like it's like the last 20 minutes of an X-Files episode.
Right. So, I mean, it speaks to the, the way of writing scenarios of, like this is the thing, the rails are on, we have to hit all these beats, as opposed to, these are potential things that could happen. These are potential outcomes that could, right? You're not trying to drill home like we have to, like this is how it runs, depending on, right? Because you could either run away, you could fight, you could, maybe talk your way out of it. Or come up with it, whatever the crazy plan is that nobody saw coming. It was like, oh, what if we do this weird thing? Like, oh, okay, cool. So it's nice to have, sort of that spread of options to kind of, cater to the table, right? Like however the table wants to play that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that one of the things that's kind of central to the scenario too is kind of the idea that the idea of cooperation and breaking cycles. There's a whole, when we're doing it's a teenagers against evil kind of scenario. But one thing that I've kind of done is there's several different suggestions and scenarios for how to allow the players to kind of put their thumb on the scales a little bit, as long as they're working with each other, they're working together. So, for example, one optional suggestion I make is to give everybody an extra pool of luck points that they can only spend to help other people. So if you've seen the cover, you'll see that the 4-player characters, the pre-gen player characters, are all standing with their backs to each other, shining lights out, kind of warding off the monsters that are kind of swarming around them. And that's really it's very emblematic of how the scenario is supposed to run, because each of them is kind of in a better position to help another than they are themselves. And there's kind of an important thematic element that kind of recurs like all throughout the scenario. Is the solution to the scenario is helping other people and getting them to help you in return, as opposed to just sort of pounding through it on the strength of your dice or your stats.
Right. Have you written scenarios before involving children? Does that change the way that you approach writing a scenario when you're dealing with kids?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have, and it does. It's a matter of tone with me. You're looking for, as I say, you're looking for kind of a certain tone, like it's Fright Night or the Goonies or It, or at least It until it gets awful. The early parts of the movie,
the first 90 minutes of it.
Yeah, but where it basically the kids should be in peril, but as long as they act heroically and one is snatching the other one out of the sewer or snatching the other one through the door that's about to close, they should all be able to survive. So one thing I find, even It, how do they ultimately avoid Pennywise? The girl bestows favors on all of them. So it's kind of it's this idea of camaraderie and sacrificing for each other.
Right. Are there any special or specific content warnings, again, because we're dealing with children, we're dealing with kids in a psychiatric institute, or is there a different level?
No, honestly, it's pretty much a soft R. I kind of avoid this one. There are things that could have happened that I kind of go out of my way to point out that they didn't.
Sure.
In the course of the text, so that people's imaginations kind of don't run wild. But so yeah, no, this is very. I don't think there are any particular content warnings that are necessary for this, because the worst things that could happen kind of didn't.
Sure.
it's pretty. It's pretty explicit in the text that they didn't. So
Okay, that's good. That's good. So I don't know if I've ever asked you before. How long have you actually been writing?
oh my gosh, my first
Forever.
Forever. Yeah, I'm 60 years old, and my first Call of Cthulhu publication was in 1993. I have a scenario in one of the earliest issues of the Unspeakable Oath. I have two in kind of what was Pagan Publishing's first scenario book, Mortal Coils, which was the mid 90s. I'm that Jeff Moeller. I'm the same guy. I do. I pop up every now and then and write. The interesting thing, yeah. I got started writing Call of Cthulhu because I went to Miami of Ohio for college in the mid '80s, and I played Call of Cthulhu twice a week at Miami with a number of people who ended up have written things since. But probably the most famous of them was John H. Crow III. He was my from Pagan Publishing. He was one of my. He kept me through Mask and the Nyarlathotep through college, after I graduated, and I was a year ahead. I graduated a year ahead of John. I graduated and went off to law school, and John went relocated for his last year to the University of Missouri. And met up with John Tynes and Dennis Detweiler and those guys at Missouri. And then they all ended up in Seattle, and I ended up in Anchorage after law school. So I kept in touch with John a little bit. And when I would go through Seattle for work, I would, stop by and say hi. So I visited John at Pagan House a few times, and that's what they were doing. And I was like, I remember how to play this game. I'll bet I could write something. So I did. And it just it's something I've done every now and then over the years when either I'm going through a divorce or I'm miserable about something, or some stranger appears, I need something for a Kickstarter. Could you write something for me? And I end up writing 5 things for the guy. And, it's a hobby. It's what I do.
He's only been divorced once, people. Let's not make it seem like there's like 5 ex-Mrs. Moellers around.
When I got divorced, that was in the early. That was like 2002, 2003, 2004, and I literally wrote 10 different things during that period of time. I wrote a 2-book fantasy campaign for Chaosium. That's literally like 250 pages long and languishing in the Miskatonic University monograph series. I wrote 2 other monographs, each of which were over 100 pages long. I wrote more stuff for Pagan. I wrote, and then I wrote a whole bunch of other things that ended up sitting on my computer and rotting there for years until people started asking me, "Hey, Jeff, are you interested in writing something?" Well, let me see. What do I got on my computer? Oh, how about this? How about that? Oh, I could finish this up. I could finish that up. And it's Seasons Change actually has been a version of it kind of goes back at least 10 years.
Oh, wow.
It never got anywhere because I wasn't happy with it. I didn't like it. It was basically kind of just the first act, and then it just sort of ended. Right. I didn't have my epiphany about how to not only extend it but kind of make it interesting, and until about a year ago. So that's when I kind of dusted it off, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. When I started asking myself the question, okay, let's say that they get out of the psychiatric ward in more or less in one piece. Okay, how do they solve the problem that I've kind of dished up for them? I don't want to just say, oh, and they managed to escape the horrible situation. It ends. I want to give them a way to then go solve the problem that they've been confronted with. And once I started thinking along that way, it kind of had a whole, the rest of it kind of fell into place.
Nice. I mean, working as a lawyer, because it's like two completely different sides of your brain. I imagine that, you know, the specificity, the research, you know, all the technical stuff helps with the research aspect. If you're, you know, working on a scenario, where does that wellspring of creative energy come from? Because it's such a dichotomous.
There's a couple of things that has a lot more. That it is. It's just. I don't think that. I mean, apart from just writing, I write all day and then I come home and write some more. You know, my interest in that sort of thing comes from it comes from different places. I say one is my upbringing, which was I lived overseas, particularly in like my formative years between like 4th and 8th grade. I lived in French speaking countries, and this is in the 70s. So I read a lot of books. I read a lot of. If there was a fantasy epic or a science fiction epic or an Agatha Christie story, I read them in that 5-year span, because that's what I did. That's what I had to do. I was in Paris for a couple of years, but then I was in Abidjan, which is the capital of the Ivory Coast, for a few years. And, you know, it was 4 hours of French-speaking television and the BBC World Service on shortwave and books. That's what we had to do. So that's what I did. But then, apart from that, there's my well-rounding classical humanities minor. I have a minor in mythology. So when I go to write something for Invictus, I just like I drag. I got into a really funny exchange with somebody on Reddit a couple of weeks ago where somebody asked a question about what the appropriate resource was for the appropriate accurate research source was for Roman cults in the imperial era, and we both kind of replied simultaneously and completely agreed with each other. So it's like, oh, you got to read this guy. So yeah, it's you know that's just that my repressed childhood kind of being given voice. Some people might say that the legal writing is semi-fictional as well, but that wouldn't be very nice.
Well, it's almost a prerequisite that if you had a happy childhood where you felt really seen and part of something, you're never going to be an author. I don't know a single author that felt seen and accepted by a wide group that you know became an author. It's just not something we all have that kind of need to be seen and heard. So
to make a mark, to make a statement, sure. Was there any particular inspiration for this scenario that you drew from, or
his minor in mythology, which is on full display? Not to do any spoilers, but it's on full display.
It's all about heroes' journeys and cycles and Sumerian mythology, So, there is a movie I do like to talk about when I talk about the scenario, because it kind of helped crystallize things for me, and I recommend that everybody watch it, even if you don't speak French, because you can get through it without needing to. It's a 2018 psychedelic horror movie called Climax. It's by director Gaspar Noé, who also did Enter the Void, which is another very good movie. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend that you watch it. But Climax is kind of really, I say, have you seen Climax? And nobody's seen it, and I guess because French and subtitles kind of, it kind of puts people off. But it's out. You can watch. It's on Amazon Prime at the moment. It had been on HBO Max for a few months, so I've been getting people gradually to watch it. And it's very accessible because the plot is not turgid. There's not a lot of complex words being exchanged.
Right.
It's a story of a music video after party that just goes unbelievably horrible. It's one of the most it's very psychedelic and visually kind of disturbing, but it's also just grim when you get right down to it. Very, very impactful movie, and you don't lose anything for having to read a few French subtitles. It's very clear kind of what is going on. And it's one of my favorite kind of movies, because it's one of these things where there is a villain. Who the villain is not at all apparent throughout the course of the movie, until the last scene, when the last scene reveals the villain. And then you go when you kind of pick your head up and you get your frame of reference, and you start scratching your head. And you get the rewind button, and you go back and you watch what this character was doing in every frame, including when the character was in the background. And it's like, oh, I see what they did there. I see exactly what happened now. Oh, that's what was going on there.
Yeah, my favorite example of that is Usual Suspects.
Instead of on the right, it's one of those kinds of movies that you have to watch it twice to really kind of understand what happened. But once you go back and watch it the second time, you're just like, I was just wowed by the plot intricacy, and I like intricate plots. So
yeah, a lot of that stuff. You get a good filmmaker, it's just so subtle in the background. It's just, if you're not really like oh, I'm watching a movie, I'm intaking a story, I'm being entertained, but then. There's so much stuff that goes into those shots, into that story. It's neat to be able to discover that after the fact.
It's an interesting film because it's kind of an ensemble cast. It's about 90 minutes, between 90 minutes and 2 hours long. Some of the shots are one shots for like half hour, shot uninterrupted, one take, and only two members of the cast are actually like trained actors. The rest are dancers who were dancers or musicians who were, who, again, it's about the after party of a music video shoot. Right, so there was a lot of dancers and musicians who were, in the cast. But the two who have significant dramatic parts and lines are trained actors, but. A lot of the people aren't, including the villain. The villain was one of the dancers, as it turns out, and that person just does a phenomenal understated job of villainy, and it's very what they're up to in the background. It's just a really, it's particularly given how it's several really long uninterrupted takes. Parts of it are like 10-minute shots of the dance floor where chaos is erupting. And if you're watching from the right angle, you see what the one person is doing, off to the side, or, it's a very clever piece of filmmaking. I really appreciate it.
Nice. I made a note. I'm going to watch that after my con this weekend.
Yeah, I've been talking people. John Hook, actually, I got John Hook to watch it, and he was like, "Oh my God, what did I just?" He I think he appreciated it afterwards, but I'm not sure I'm not sure he enjoyed it, even though I guess you'd have to ask him.
Yeah,
because it's a messed up mess. It's grim. It is a grim movie, and there are some grim parts to it.
Yeah, the green room was like that too, just visually horrifying, and just the whole setup was. It was not a fun movie to watch, but it was a good movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, talking about Sumerian beings in the scenario, do you find that with people's familiarity with the mythos, with the game specifically Call of Cthulhu and all the mechanics and all the monsters and stuff, coming up with something, designing something new and interesting, kind of, throw people for a little bit of a loop as far as like, hey, you think you know what this is, but we're going to go in this other direction. Is that difficult to do?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I believe in writing to a theme. The theme here is cycles. It's cyclical, so I'm able to use a deity of the seasons, and I think that's pretty accessible. You understand that is a goddess of the underworld. She represents the changing seasons.
Sure.
She has servitors. The servitors are not nice. I mean, that's kind of what are her motivations? I give the players access very quickly, and kind of follow the rule of giving the clue 3 times. I give them 3 different opportunities to find out what it is she wants, and how it might be possible to appease her. So not really. I mean, it's just I tried to because I was pursuing a particular theme, which is cycles and breaking them. I wanted to use a particular mythic source, and none of the Cthulhu's or Nyarlathoteps or anything really fit it. So
yeah. All right, nice.
But it's also Halloween, remember, and if we're talking about possession by Sumerian entities, we're talking about the Exorcist. So
right. Wasn't Evil Dead, wasn't that Sumerian too?
Yes, it was. So it's not going to be all that inaccessible to people. They know who Pazuzu is. They understand what's going on when Regan's head is spinning around. So they understand what the Evil Dead are when the Deadites pop up. So it's not going to be too foreign. It's not going to be a foreign concept. Might have been back in the day, but I don't think it would be anymore.
We met Pazuzu in a game.
Yes, good old Pazuzu.
I was so proud of my friends how I just described the demon, and I said, "Name that demon for." And Jeff was like, "Pazuzu." I'm like, "Yes, it is Pazuzu." Like I'm just describing what it looks like, and that's a deep nerd skill right there.
That's funny. So the scenario is available. It's being released through Golden Goblin.
Yes,
I think your logo's on the front.
It's out on Golden Goblin, and I guess Mark is going to try to work on the drive-through layout this weekend.
We hope to be submitting for setting up hard copies through DriveThru this weekend.
Nice.
That'll take, unfortunately, a few weeks because you got to get a physical proof to approve it, and I've learned the hard way you do need to get that physical proof to approve it because it does not always turn out the way you want it to. So yeah, we'll submit it, we'll get the proof, and as soon as we're comfortable, we're going to go live and people can start ordering physical copies. But the PDF is available. Out. And I got to add, if you want to throw a Halloween event where you do like Halloween snacks and a jack-o'-lantern on the table and some baked goods, this is perfect because that's how the scenario begins.
Nice.
It's like a Halloween gathering. So I think it's really going to be a great immersive Halloween type game. And this is coming from somebody who's probably got like 6 Halloween themed scenarios under his belt. I was addicted to the Halloween horror monograph series. I submitted every single time they did it. And I was and one of those went on to become the first of a campaign, Halloween in Dunwich. But no, this is a great, solid Halloween adventure, and I think any group of players would be in for a really good time on this one.
And meant to be played as a one shot for 4-ish hours.
I think it breaks in half very nice. So
okay,
yeah, I mean 4-ish hours. I don't think 4-ish might be a little short, but it's
this game could last 90 minutes.
Well, I guess if they don't make it out of the first act.
Not successfully.
Well, is it successful? I mean, Everybody has a
They're
good
given
time.
plenty of tools for that not to happen, but they have to.
Yeah, but I've learned long ago that you can't make anything foolproof because fools are the most unstoppable force of nature. Yeah, I've had players just literally, commit suicide. I'm like, why did you think this was a good idea? But hey, you don't own the narrative; the players own the narrative, and sometimes things go pear-shaped.
Yeah. But again, there are mechanisms where the fools can be bailed out if they use the optional mechanisms, because if you're playing with 4 people and one of them is just bent on doing something crazy, there's 3 luck pools backing them up to try to give them a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance.
Yeah, but nobody wants to play Call of Cthulhu with a press X not to die. There's got to be that risk. I mean, that's why people play Call of Cthulhu. Well, if you want power fantasy, you're playing.
It's the wrong game.
5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, but
yeah. Well, because the risk has to be there, right? Like even in a D&D game, you have to. When I used to run, like my goal in combat was to drop somebody to 0, right? Just to be like, you're not gonna die, but like you could go down, and it makes things more difficult for other players. And like, when you're dealing with Cthulhu, right? Like just you have creatures with unspeakable powers and everything else, right? Like that has to have bearing on how you play. Like for us, that's how we play, right? Like we play everything straight. Everything is, like this is a person that exists in a space, and like how do you deal with that stuff? And like that's the fun part. I don't know, that's the fun part for me anyway, right? Is to like how do you relate to and overcome and deal with this horrible stuff that's there. So to have, that potential, and obviously it's much more so in a Cthulhu game.
Right.
I mean, a lot of times the best option is to like, well, you know what? Maybe we should regroup. Maybe we should come back and do this later.
One of my favorite moments in any game was one of my players pointed to a map and says, "What's this room?" And I said, "Well, that's just the closet. It's right off." He goes, "I'm going to go in there, close the door, cover myself with some coats, take out a flask, and start drinking." And other players were like, "You mean that's an option? We could have been doing that all. We could have been doing this all along." He's like, Screw you guys. I'm going home. I'm going to lock myself in the closet and just start drinking. If the monster finds me, so be it. I'm done. But no, bailing out is always an option. Unless you're locked in you're locked in a children's psychiatric hospital with Sumerian demons.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere easily.
Nope.
Other than down.
You're right.
You may be going down quite easily.
Right. David Lee Ingersoll did the artwork for this one as well.
Yeah, it is. David and I first. This goes back. David and I first worked. I met David first working on a book called Lost in Lights, which is now, 12, 15 years old, which just strikes me as is just difficult for me to kind of believe, but it's. But yeah, he and I got along famously, and one of the things I really like about when I'm doing something weird, I ask for David because I can tell him, "Hey, David, here's what I need for the cover. There's 4 kids. This is what they look like. They have their backs to each other. They're warding off Rabashu, Sumerian plague demons, as they're crawling about the floors and ceilings." And I don't have to explain to him what a Rabashu looks like. He'll go figure it out,
Right.
And then he'll draw one, and it's great. So yeah, he did illustrated Lost in Lights together, and then he illustrated the cat book. He understands, he understands cats in Charles Clark Datchin Smith's the City of the Singing Flame, surrounded by a bunch of weird creatures, and it's like here's what it looks like, and then there's a bunch of cats, and he just like flat problem. So yeah, no, he's I love his style for when we're getting into the weird and absurd, and I'm always happy to work with him.
And he's great to work with. He's up for any challenge, happy to be part of a team, communicative, from a publisher standpoint, he's really a good guy to have on your team.
Yeah. Right. And I don't want to say an iconic style, but kind of an iconic style. Like when I saw the art on Facebook, I was like, oh, I know who that is. I don't know what the name is. I have to go grab another book that I know has that art on it. Because it just pops and stands out. Yeah. Do you have anything else in the pipeline? You have other stuff that you're working on?
And there are a number of things that are either in the pipeline or in the kind of the very early formative stages. And I'll let Oscar talk about what's in the pipeline, because he's got, I don't know, three of my things in one stage or another right now.
Yes. We've got a bunch of Cthulhu Invictus stuff written. We were going to put it out as one big collection book, but one or more authors don't really have respect for word limits. So the book became very, very. And Jeff is not even the worst offender at this point. So some people turned in a scenario that is actually the size of a small book. So we're going to be splitting this up into 3, smaller books. And it's a mix of hardcore old school professionals and new young bloods, earning their spurs. So you're going to be putting that out. We hope to get at least one of those collections out next year. But we we'll be doing that. We have another Jeff scenario in our companion book to Island of Ignorance, Dark Seas of Infinity, that we're going to be moving that into heavy production. We've got the book, the manuscript's done, the articles are all done. We just need to move towards editing, but we have some things staggered before that. So that one's going to be also hitting some flat ground in 2026.
Yeah, that's my foray into weird science.
Yes.
Nice.
It's an alternative medicine symposium in Arkham in the 20s. So, all of those radium toothpaste
orgone boxes and radioactive everything applications and
nice.
Violet rays, and
they don't have a Tillinghast resonator on display, but they might as well.
You're right.
So that's a fun scenario. I'm looking forward to just getting the art sketches back of the freaking weird stuff that Jeff's got in that one. So yeah, that's, we've got some things staggered and lined up that we're, once we get everything, we've got this one out the door. We're hopefully moving Arius Lurko into layout in the next 2 weeks. Lisa and I are just, sanding off the last couple of rough corners before we hand that off to Mark. And and then we'll start on, other things. And Jeff has a doozy of an idea for a upcoming modern project.
This was Jeff is trying to. Jeff kind of wanted to use this book as a kind of a proof of concept for kind of taking creative charge of a project and kind of running it from beginning to end. And so I kind of wanted to start with, one thing that would be kind of low impact and, not the end of the world if it didn't sell a book.
Sure.
But next, this is to kind of get me acclimated to the bigger project. And the bigger project is Project Nothing. It's the code name anyway, and it's going to be a straight on 6 scenario modern Call of Cthulhu scenario book.
Cool.
And I have an idea, and Oscar has an idea, and I have an idea of the people I kind of want to invite to write and draw, and it's going to be kind of it's going to hopefully. I haven't talked to people yet, but hopefully it's going to be kind of a reunion of some of the books that I've that did well in the past. There's people I want to get involved in this, and I have grandiose ideas about it.
The last time he headed up a modern collection, it did win an ENnie, so we're very excited here at GGP to kind of get this rolling when we all catch our breaths from everything we're trying to get done before the end of the year.
Yeah, are you going to wait? I guess in some sense, are you going to wait until some of those other projects clear?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I want this book to be basically written. This is the size of the project is going to require it to be crowdfunded, I think.
Right.
And I kind of want to, I want to get things, written as much as I can, and kind of get things, organized as much as I can before I start, trying to reach out and tap people who are going to want to be paid for the. So.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. That sounds fun. There's a lack of modern, which is just as compelling and interesting as the 20 stuff, right? Like you can, kind of self-remove, and like it makes it more, I don't know, like almost like your D&D setting or whatever. Like you're playing a setting, you're assuming that role in history or whatever. But the modern stuff is also interesting because yes, you have all this technology, you have your phone, you have all this stuff.
And it's even changed so much. I mean, the last modern scenarios I've written are. I was thinking about this yesterday. They're coming up on 10 years old, 10 years old. The camera network in 2025 around Cleveland is vastly different than it was in 2017 when I wrote Ladybug. If I wrote Ladybug today, I'd have to completely redo it because in order to defeat the surveillance network, the antagonists would have to have a completely different plan. The plan that worked in 2017 would not work today. Too many more cameras, and too many, and they're everywhere. They were everywhere in 2017. Now they're really everywhere. If you
just add drones to that,
stomach for it.
Yeah. Once you take drones into account.
Something I got kind of interested with was the whole investigation into the Brian Koberger thing in Idaho, and now that he pled out and is where he belongs, they've started releasing more of the evidence files, and they literally had this guy's car basically every intersection circling. They were able to piece together him circling for hours around this small college town in Idaho. And you would think, well, small college town in Idaho, how many cameras could there possibly be? You'd be surprised at how many cameras there could possibly be, because everybody's got rings, and if people, if the cops, put the manpower together to go door by door by door and say, hey, you got any ring footage of between midnight and 4 a.m. on this night? Well, we can look. And I mean, every street and every house might not have one, but you can, if you put your time to it and you get enough AI going, you can put together an awfully convincing picture of one white car movements, or over the stalking movements over the course of several hours. It's just incredibly. One of the things I like about the Law and Order reboot, the one that's set in New York, is that they have done a good job of refreshing and updating the kind of the first half hour of the show where the cops are tracking people down. Now it's much. it's much easier. They find people. They have cameras everywhere in Manhattan, so they're able to figure out, who they get glimpses of people on cameras, and they're very good about that. And then the challenge for the detectives tends to be more in the human interactions, because people don't like the cops anymore. So, okay, well, I may have seen this person, but I don't like your cop. And so it's a very, watching the show in 2025, watching it 20 years ago, where they were relying on positive human interactions, and people kind of wanted to cooperate with the detectives. Now people don't want to cooperate with the detectives, but they don't necessarily need them to, because they can hold them. They can hold up their image on a, it's no longer, well, we caught you driving out of the Manhattan Tunnel on an easy pass. It's like we have you on camera.
Yeah,
we're here and here and here and here. What do you say about that? I want a lawyer. So.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. Is there anything that we haven't covered, touched on, that you guys want to talk about? Anything about the scenario? Anything about any other things that are going on? Gaming related, I guess.
I finally started work on my. The campaign I've been wanting to write for about 15 years. So I've given myself 3 years to complete it. So I may get it done faster. I have no plans to publish it. I got so hung up on how I would publish it. It was keeping me from writing it. So I'm just going to write it, and I'll figure that out, after or never. But at least I'll have done it, and then I can, I can move on with my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've kind of hit my lull. As I said, I have several things that I've kind of moved along in the past year and a half, and I do hit my next project. Nothing is my next big idea, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while to pull together, because I'm going to be very persnickety about it.
Yeah, and he wants the book mostly done before we kickstart it, so that'll that's good. And trouble. Yeah, it's not going to be a quick thing. It'll take some doing.
It'll keep the backers happy.
Yeah, it will.
It keeps us off the streets.
Yeah.
All
right, cool. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you.
To talk to you, John.
Yep, Oscar, we miss you. We played our first game without you the other day. It's not the same.
Well, thank you, but don't make me feel any more guilty than I do. I just needed to do this. I just needed to give myself. Sure. Life is just so busy. When you're an adult and you've got bills and a day job, and and you're trying to write, and so yeah.
Yep. Places where I don't ever ask you this when we close that. Places that people can find you, Oscar, other than at goldengoblinpress.com.
We do have an Instagram. And luckily I have a friend who knows how to post to Instagram, who's our digital media expert. I make really bad posts and she fixes them. So thank you, Lee Candelino. We are still active on Facebook because I'm old and I don't know any better. And Facebook is, for old people, I guess. But other than that, I'll be at Total Con, I'll be at Rising Phoenix, I'll be at Long Island Navy Con. So Necronomicon, God willing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you ever want to find me, if you go on the Call of Cthulhu Reddit forum and yell loud enough, usually
you'll appear.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. We have our Patreon up. If you'd like to throw a couple of bucks our way, that's helpful. Offsets the costs. Ratings and reviews on iTunes or whatever your podcatcher of choice is dubiously helpful. We also have our T-shirts up, which apparently this is probably legal now. So I don't know if you'd want to buy a T-shirt, or maybe that makes you want to buy a T-shirt more. we have them there. We're donating all proceeds from anything in the TeePublic store to LGBTQTIA plus causes, because fuck fascists. I guess you can't say that anymore either.
You just did.
Yeah, well, I'm on the list. So we have that up if you want to check that out. So I would say support the show, but it's not support the show. It's support people who need support. So there's that.
About Red Hook, or we Red Hook, or
yeah,
pretty much.
You made those shirts. All right, we want to thank everybody for checking it out, and we'll catch you next time.